guys, Dart here, and today I'll be talking about A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I hope I said that right. I gave this book a 90%. I was really happy with this read. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. It had a lot of humor. I loved the characters. Charlotte is like, wow. And Jamie is like, wow. I know for sure it's not gonna make the top 10 of favorites for this year, but it will probably be on the list as an honorable mention. I will continue on with the series. I think there's 4 books, or a 4th book is coming out in 2019. I think one just came out this year in March. Having read this, I really want to read the original Sherlock Holmes stories. But yeah, this book, we follow Charlotte Holmes and James Watson. Now, Charlotte is a descendant of Sherlock Holmes, and James Watson is a descendant of Dr. John Watson. The book is written in a way where Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson were real people in history. When Dr. John Watson wrote down the stories, he made the stories more fluffy, more mysterious, and more intricate than they really were. So it was really fun to think for a minute that Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson were real for a second there. The story begins with James Watson telling us a story of how he met Charlotte for the first time. And then the chapter finishes with, and that was the day so-and-so was killed. And I was like, oh, we're driving right into it. So the previous week, James fought with a boy named Dobson. Dob is found dead in his dorm, and the prime suspects are both Charlotte and James. So throughout the story, we follow Holmes and Watson trying to figure out who really killed a boy while trying to clear their names. That is all I have for the non-spoilery section of this video. So I'm gonna get right into the book talk. So if you haven't read it, go read it, come back, and then we can chat about it. Okay, I knew who had killed Dob from the very beginning, though I never in a million years would have figured out that motive. I have it right here. My first prime suspect. The first one I had here was the nurse, and I put as the motive in love with Watson. So yes, the nurse had done it, but not because she was in love with Watson, but because she was August's fiance. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, let's start from the very beginning of this book. Right away, I feel like the tone of the story was written exactly like back in the day Sherlock Holmes stories, in the point of view of the Watson. But what I really loved about these characters is that they were not at all one-dimensional. I mean, we have Charlotte Holmes, who's a teenager who's addicted to oxy. She has done heroin, cocaine. I don't want to sound like I know about addiction, because I don't, but it seems to me like Charlotte got into drugs because her parents taught her that Holmes are not supposed to feel. To numb herself, she did drugs. So the story about the whole Holmes and Watson is that when a Holmes is born, they are taught the skills of deduction, of how to know when someone's lying to them, and how to read emotion. At first I thought it was so cool, but then when Charlotte was telling Watson, you know, my family, they thought I felt too much, that I let my emotions get the better of me. So not only are they teaching them to become detectives, they want the Holmeses not to feel anything. They don't want them to have emotions, to get caught up in a case. So let's start off by saying that as soon as I read, and that's when Dob was murdered, I was like, okay, who killed Dob? And then I put Charlotte Holmes, and then I have the characters here because I was like, maybe it was one of them. I have Charlotte, who was raped by Dob on September 26th, and then we have Watson, who fought Dob on October 3rd, and he's shy. He hates rugby, but he got a scholarship. I think it was the week after. They were still suspects in the murder of Dob. So when Watson went to the poker game and he was talking to Lena, he's like, oh, are you done with your cup? Can I take it from you? I'll throw it away. And I thought, oh my God, who's ever framing Charlotte and Watson is gonna take Watson's prints from that cup and put them somewhere else to keep on framing him for the murder of Dob. But that never happened, so I guess I'm more of a criminal mastermind. I think it was maybe around chapter 5, 6 that I decided to be like, okay, I need to write down my suspects. So before I even knew it was the nurse, I have my first suspect was the nurse, and then it was the drug dealer, and then it was Tom, and then it was Lena, and then it was August. Somehow they were all guilty of something. The nurse killed Dob. The drug dealer was actually one of Lucien's puppets to put the whole blue ruby in Elizabeth's throat. And then we have Tom, who's guilty of bugging the room because he was working with Mr. Wheatley, who wanted to write and become famous off this story. Lena, she's not guilty of anything. She's just, you know, a good friend playing along with whatever Charlotte asks her to do. And then August, he was totally innocent in all of this. At least that's how it ended in the book. And then, well, I was at 41% of the ebook, what if it's a group? So then after doing the whole what if it's a group, I had the nurse, Mr. Wheatley, and the drug dealer. It went down considerably, and I think I got it. I got all three because they were all kind of guilty. I mean, the nurse and the drug dealer were in on it with Lucien, and then Mr. Wheatley was in on it with Tom to bug the room to get all the inside scoop so Mr. Wheatley could write his own kind of like Sherlock Holmes book and become famous and have like this teaching job at Harvard or Yale with that Penelope person. Sherlock Holmes is one evil genius. Charlotte orchestrated this whole event where Lena got attacked by someone and a box was sent to her room, and it was part of the whole Sherlock Holmes remake crimes. I wrote down here, I was like, wow, that was genius. Though Char is still not trustworthy, I mean, the girl got herself out of being a suspect. She played it so cool, and it's scary. I was like, okay, what if it really is Charlotte and she's playing this game where she's pretending to be innocent? Because at this point, even Watson knew she was hiding something. I mean, if she pulled that off and she got herself off that suspect list like it was nothing, who's to say she's not actually really guilty about killing Dobbs? And maybe she's pretending to be innocent. I was like mind blown. But I think like after a while, when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, she's a genius and she could most likely be the murderer, but she's not. There's something about her that I don't find as being a killer just yet. Another thing that really hurt me and that really got to my feels was Watson's dad. Watson's talking about how his dad left him and his little sister and his mom, and he has this new family in America. Part of the reason why his dad was behind the whole scholarship situation was because he wanted to get to know Watson, but at the same time he did it because he wanted some action in his life. That's just not right. Like, yes, if you wanted to spend time with your son, call him up, tell him, hey, I want you to spend a year here in the United States so we can hang out, so we can talk, so we can get to know each other. I want you to meet your brothers. I want you to meet my wife. Instead of orchestrating this whole thing with one of his friends and ruining James's life that he very much loved in London. When Jamie and Charlotte were taken to Watson's dad's house, I was like waiting for that reunion between the stepmom and the brothers, but Watson's dad's like, oh, you know, they went to her parents' place while we get this thing settled. And it's like, why would you send them to her parents' place? Do you not want your son to meet your new family? It really felt like Watson's dad was trying to keep them apart. Like, he didn't want Jamie to meet his new family. His reasons, I could guess it was something totally different, but for me it felt like he was just being a douche canoe about it. So another clue we get in this whole murder mystery is that Dob was receiving cookies from his sister, and Randall was like, yeah, those cookies were nasty, man. He could have been poisoned by those cookies. And we also find out that he was taking some type of protein to help him in his rugby playing ways. And when Watson goes up to the coach and says, hey coach, you know, I'm thinking of taking some protein, where do I start? And the coach is like, oh, why don't you go to the nurse? She gets some protein and exported from Germany. And I was like, yep, that's the second reason I think the nurse is behind all this. So then Watson takes it upon himself to get a concussion. He took one for the team, and he was in the infirmary. When he woke up from that concussion and he saw Charlotte with the bow, high pony, all like, oh baby. Oh, Charlotte knows exactly how to change persona. That girl is too smart for her own good. And that's why I'm saying that at first I did suspect her. Later on, we find out that the nurse, she is part European, and that's why she was never taken off the suspect list. Then we have the situation when Watson and Charlotte have this fight in their little science cave. He is so mad that when he returns to his room, he talks about it to Tom. And then Tom tells him a story about a roommate he had. You know, he was exactly like Charlotte. He took advantage of him, and when push came to shove, Tom took the fall for drinking alcohol or doing drugs in the school property or something like that. The guy never said a thank you and just abandoned him. He got off free because he got money. Wow, that sounds like it could either be August or Lucien. Like, they have been undercover and planting the bugs everywhere, but now it's just a weird story. But I feel like that story will come into play sometime, maybe in the next few books, or it may never come up again. And then it is revealed that Brittany, the nurse who I suspected all along, whose motives I got wrong, was August's fiance. And she's the one, she's the culprit in all of this. And she was working with Lucien to get revenge on Charlotte for what she did to August. What Charlotte did was she was, I think she was 14 at the time. She was being tutored by August. She was already a drug addict, and she was really in love with August. And August didn't think anything of it. He thought it was a cute little crush that she had on him and that it was gonna go away. But Lord behold, when Charlotte felt like she was, you know, played down because of her age and because she thought she was being made fun of, she framed August for buying her drugs. And in the process, they got Lucien. And Lucien went to jail on a different related matter, I believe, but he ended up in jail either way because of Charlotte. August, his life was ruined, and Charlotte was the culprit of that. Apparently, August took his own life, but what Brittany doesn't know is that it was planned by the family to get him to start over, because as August, he couldn't get a job. Nobody wanted him in their school, and so August became someone else, and Brittany doesn't know this, so she wanted revenge on his name, and she wanted Charlotte to go to jail to pay for the crime, whether it be Dobbs or whether it be August's. And I feel like Charlotte came a long way from when she was younger, and you could really see the remorse she had on how she ruined August's life. And then you see how happy she was when her brother Milo gave him a job. I think we haven't seen the last of August, mostly because the next book is called The Last of August. I was really worried for Jamie there for a moment when he was poisoned, and I did think that the nurse was gonna get away with it, but then I was like, no, she's not. We're talking about Charlotte here. She has something up her sleeve. And that whole showdown of that scene when Brittany was telling her her motives for killing everybody. Charlotte, she's looking at her shoe. There must be something about her shoes that are interesting. And I love how that came full circle. I loved it when Charlotte was like, when I blink twice, use your last card. And so funny how Jamie knew just what that last card was. I really enjoyed this book. But yeah, like I said, I need more skills in my detectiveness. I guess I can know who the person is. I just have to figure out the motives. And at first I really did think it was the nurse, that she was trying to get rid of Charlotte because she was in love with Jamie. It just never occurred to me that she would have been August's fiance and that she wanted to get revenge on Charlotte through Jamie. You could really see that Charlotte did care for Watson, especially after the science building exploded. When they were at the house and Jamie's like, I'm sorry for being mean to you, and Charlotte's like, no, I'm the one that should be sorry for being horrible to you, but it saved your life. Jamie was like, what? The note said that I was gonna kill you if I kept you in that room with me. So I was horrible to you until you left. Oh my god, she really did care for Watson. Another thing I really loved, I love the epilogue. The whole story before the epilogue, it was in Watson's narrative, and then we go to the epilogue and it's in Charlotte's tone. So it's just, Watson's version of the story is more about, you know, feelings and love. So let me correct him in some points. And then she actually has a list. She's like, 1, I really hated that he named the skeletons or something like that. And then she's like, 2, I went to the dance to save him from all the people who wanted to ask him, or about a girl who was gonna ask him and something about eating him alive. And she just forgot to tell Watson. And I'm like, sure you did, Charlotte. Sure you did. At the end, she says, I'm a week sober. Yay! She's sober! And I really hope in the next book we really see her heal and really fight the addiction like a boss. I'm waving at my neighbor. He's staring at me. Hi. That is all I have for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below, where should I start in the Sherlock Holmes stories? Because I have no idea where to start. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more of my face. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!